Welcome everybody to today, Wednesday, January 24th's Q&A webinar. My name is Andrew Newman. We got Glenn Buchanan here on the line with us today, and we are going to be fielding everybody's questions. So as usual, we're going to go through a couple of housekeeping tips. While we're going through those housekeeping tips, for those of you who have not attended the webinar before, we're going to go through a couple of things that you would like to keep in mind when you're asking questions here on the Q&A webinar. This is a technical support webinar, so be able to handle any technical support questions while we're going through these couple of tips. Go ahead and queue up your questions. Go ahead and post those either in the comments section there on Facebook or in Zoom in the questions in the chat section there. So we'll be able to field your questions very appropriately after that. So first housekeeping tip is any questions that are related to your account specifically, where we would have to log in and take a look at something. It's something that we're a little bit challenged in doing here on the webinar live. So we won't be able to do those. We will direct those to our technical support team. We do have live support team members standing by, waiting to assist you eagerly, I might add, to assist you with anything that you need help with that's specific to your funnel. Now, that does not mean to say that you are not able to ask the question about how that particular process works. We can go over that. We can show you a demonstration here on the screen share, and we can really break it down for you. If you have successfully set it up the way that we show you here on the webinar, then again, we will, of course, direct you to this technical support team where we can go in and see what specifically might be going on with that particular setting in your account. The next thing that we are unable to actually address here on the webinar is strategy and marketing questions. These things are very finicky, and we're just not equipped here to be able to handle that in a technical support fashion. So we'll, of course, direct you to our Facebook community or to some of our certified partners or additional training material that we have here at ClickFunnels on those particular topics. So with that said, hopefully, Glenn, we have some questions queued up and are ready to rock and roll.
We have questions flooding in already. The first one today is from Ben, and it's how do I set up a click pop that brings up a pop-up opt-in instead of the entire page?
Okay, so a click pop is basically just a pop-up that replicates the page that you're building. So if you're trying to build an opt-in page for your click pop, you'd simply create the page itself. In this case, we'll just go ahead and really quickly opt-in demo now. And this is Q&A. Build this out. And in this case, we're just going to build a quick opt-in page for our popover. So for example, we wanted to use something very simple like this template. This we could set up as a pop-up, make the background clear, whatever it may be. And then we simply go in and grab our settings here tab. Let me go ahead and change the size of this so that we can see everything. There we go. And then scroll down here. Oops, sorry. Publishing tab. Once we go to the publishing tab, we can get that code. So this would actually be the pop-up. So that's how the code works by default. And then you simply place that code on wherever you wanted this to be placed, whether it's on another ClickFunnels page, your WordPress page, a lead pages page, whatever it is that you wanted to place this code on to have that exit pop or pop on a button click or whatever it might be. So hopefully that answers your question, Glenn. Hopefully that was pretty clear.
Sounds good. Our second question for today would be from Andrew Rivers. I have a question. My question is, can you make a funnel where when they check out, they have to pay with a credit card through ClickFunnels or have the option for PayPal?
Absolutely, you can. So for a couple of things that you have to have here. PayPal does not actually require a order form within ClickFunnels, but if you wanted this person to be able to check out with their credit card, that would. Now, obviously, they can check out their credit card through PayPal, but if we wanted to add an order page to our funnel here, for example, the only thing that we would need to do is add a button or a image. You can put a PayPal image, provided that you have the rights to do so. You put that on your order page, check out with PayPal or something like that, and then they just simply click on it, and it takes them to the PayPal order page. But the key to this is having your PayPal integrated as well as your Stripe or whatever your payment processor is that you're going to use to accept the Visa on the order page within ClickFunnels. So here we have the order page up here on the settings tab. You'll go ahead and scroll down to your third-party gateway, and you'll be able to add in your PayPal right down here all the way toward the bottom under your third-party settings. So right here, third-party membership access, you can add a product And then you'll get your IPN, or instant payment notification URL, that you'll be able to use with PayPal to be able to have the person check out that way, and then be able to give them the same functionality, unlocking the membership area, or triggering a ShipStation to ship out a product, or whatever it might be that you're trying to accomplish through that. So that's how you would do that, by offering both methods, just keeping in mind that PayPal will require them to add in their payment details every single page in your funnel that's going to sell something. So if you're doing a one-click upsell or an OTO, they won't be able to use the one-click process with PayPal. They will be able to with their credit card using Stripe or one of the other payment processors that allows it in and things like that. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Glenn, did you want to share any feedback about that?
Fantastic. Other than reaching out to our docs.clickfunnels.com and looking up the method of which to install PayPal, that would be the easiest way of getting a step-by-step process, as well as rewatching this video once we post the replay. Ben D would like to know, and Drew is demonstrating where you can find accepting PayPal in the docs section. Ben would like to know, is there any chance that we'll be able to add emojis in Actionetic email titles in the future?
The future is known to no man. So maybe it's possible. Feature requests are always accepted. So Glenn, if you wanted to share that feature request link, I'm sure that would be a fantastic addition to the roster.
Wonderful. Actually, Ben's first question today was answered by the feature request link. So Ben, you can utilize that link for multiple submissions as well. John would like to know, can I launch an email campaign directly from a funnel, meaning the day one Seinfeld email? Can I broadcast day one and then start a new group down that funnel?
Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean, but if your idea here is to start your Seinfeld sequence on the opt-in the very first day and then have them added to additional lists, you could do that depending on what level of account access that you have. So if you have Actionetics, if you don't have Actionetics, you can start a free trial. But if you have Actionetics, you can actually add them to your list, and then each action funnel, which is the sequence that the person goes through once they've opted into that specific list, can have a action to add that person to another list, which would start that second sequence while continuing on with the Seinfeld sequence or whatever process that you have in place. So hopefully that answers your question, Glenn. I don't know if I'm on target or not.
John, if you want to go ahead and submit if you're or resubmit if you're utilizing, actually he made a follow-up. Reuse the Seinfeld email I already created with a new group and the broadcast email to start. So yes.
Okay, so you could very easily use that same. So everything is based off your list, right? So if you wanted to create a second list and send a broadcast to them, you're welcome to do so. The only thing that you would need to do is select both of those individual lists here when you set your broadcast up. So if you're sending to two different lists here, you could do that as one list, whatever it might be. You could just grab two different lists from your selection, and then that's how that would work. Hopefully that clarifies that.
Perfect. We have a Lisa today. Before you decide all the integrations, are there videos to show me what each one will do?
Okay, so what each one will do, I don't think we actually have tutorials that go over what each one does. But if you have a specific integration that you want to use with ClickFunnels, say, for example, if you're using Aweber, I'm pretty sure you know why you have it. If there's a list of integrations and you wanted to find out what they do, you're more than welcome to visit the websites for those individual products, and you can see what they're all about, what they're for. But in the grand scheme of things, technically, you should be able to have everything all here inside of ClickFunnels, with the exception of your SMTP server, which you're going to need as a third-party service, as well as your payment processor, which is third party. Everything, video hosting as well, but everything else is internalized to ClickFunnels. You don't necessarily need to have those third party integrations to make them work. But if you are curious, you're more than welcome to go and visit the sites for each of those, and there'll be basically sales videos that will show you what their services are all about. And maybe it's a good fit for your business, maybe it's not. Hopefully that helps.
You can also look into reaching out to our Facebook community group if you have certain parameters you want your funnel to be able to achieve, certain functionality. By listing those, we have an awesome group of individuals in our community that would be more than likely happy to assist you with deciding what might be most beneficial to you. I see your follow-up on are these recorded so I can refer back to them. I went ahead and gave you the official ClickFunnels YouTube channel where we post up all of our replays, typically within 48 hours of the initial live video. So Ben would like to know, do hard bounces show up as unsubscribes in Actionetics?
I do not believe they do. Hard bounces where you're going to get the information from for that in detail will be inside of your SMTP servers. So for example, if you're using SendGrid, you go into the recent activity, it's going to show you what happened to that email. So it's possible that the person, if you're seeing something as possibly a hard bounce and maybe that person unsubscribed after, who knows, that it's showing up inside of ClickFunnels. But I don't believe that if a email bounces from the server that it's being sent to, that it does unsubscribe from Actionetics. Glenn, maybe you have a little bit more experience with that. Maybe you have some ideas.
Like you stated, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't. However, that's something that we could reach out to our development team or engineering team and see if they have more insight into. I don't see why it would show up as an unsubscribe, but you could reach out to your SMTP provider and see how that works as well. In the realm of SMTP, James Gray would like to know, why do I need SMTP to connect my Actionetics? I went ahead and purchased SendGrid. Now I need to know how to connect it. Are there any tutorials available to help me?
There are tutorials, and the good news is it's actually incredibly simple. So all you would need to do is go into your SMTP settings right here underneath your account, and you can add an SMTP server. And then basically you're going to name it, and then obviously the from name is self-explanatory, from email also self-explanatory. Your SMTP server, this is going to be the URL for your server. And for SendGrid, I believe it's sendgrid.net or it's smtp.sendgrid.net. Now we do have a tutorial right here on the right-hand side. You can actually select whichever one of these you're using for your SMTP server. However, you can use ones that are not here as well, just by simply adding in the records here. And your SMTP provider will share this information with you, the domain name. It's all relatively simple, as well as the port for that. So the reason why you need it with ClickFunnels is because ClickFunnels doesn't actually send the emails as of today from within the system. Those are done through your SMTP server. So if you think about it, whereas ClickFunnels creates, Actionetics creates the emails in the system here, houses your contacts, houses your campaigns, everything of that nature. And then who is responsible for the sending of those to your contacts is actually your SMTP server, similar to a mailman sending out packages from your home to another home. You create everything inside home. You give it to the service provider for your mail, whether that be FedEx, UPS, any mail system that you might have in place, and that is taken to then the recipients on the other end. And that's how your SMTP server behaves with relation to the emails and stuff that it's sending out here within ClickFunnels. So hopefully that gives you a little clarity on what it's for and how it works. So if you have any questions about that, obviously we're more than happy to go into that as well.
James, I see your follow-up on how can you downgrade an account as well. If you want to open up a support ticket, the support can transfer you over to our billing department to get that handled for you. We have another question from Ben today in regards to hard bounces. So if it hard bounces, it won't be sending the email again to the person on the list using SendGrid, correct? As long as I've set up the SendGrid webhook.
That is something that I'm not familiar with. I would definitely look into SendGrid's documentation on how that's handled. Glenn, maybe you have some idea on that, maybe some input.
I would also reach out to SendGrid support just to be certain. Obviously, I'm not a subject matter expert with SendGrid in and of itself, so I wouldn't be able to guarantee the functionality of that myself. So the best bet would be reaching out to SendGrid support and seeing if they can answer that fully for you. We have a question coming from Amy today. Hi, I want to create a funnel where members can access a new lesson that I create each week, but new members need to always start with lesson 1, even though I may be up to lesson 30 for people who joined 7 months ago. Is that possible?
It is possible. Essentially, what you're going to do is build a membership site. And how you do that is by using our membership templates, because there's 2 that you're going to need. You're going to need a membership area and a membership access page. Those are each treated differently. The membership area is going to contain the content. Now, inside of the membership area, which is what it looks like here, You'll select the template that suits you, and then of course you can customize it to your will for the most part. And then each of these is going to have a section, right? So your sections will be restricted based off the access. This could be based off of purchases within your funnel. So if you have a free section, maybe a paid section, and then a premium section, you have all three of those based off the level in which somebody has purchased. Now your new lessons here are what you want to focus on, because each individual lesson, say for example, we have this one that's going to be day one, and then tomorrow they're going to have a new lesson. So what we'll do is we'll add this new lesson, and we're going to first pick the section. Of course, we only have one. So in this case, we're going to name the lesson. We'll call it day 2. And in this template, we'll grab, it's going to be a video lesson. And then this is where we set our drips. So in this case, this is going to be 2 days after they have created their account here with this particular membership area, and then create that lesson. So what's going to happen is day number 1, this is just going to be available as soon as they create their membership. And then tomorrow, this will be available as well. Now, in conjunction with that, you can set up a autoresponder campaign using your automation tab on the opt-in page or with Actionetics to be able to remind them of their lessons being opened up. So those could be set up on a drip as well, very similarly to how we dripped this out. So you could do that with as many days as you will have in your campaign. So hopefully that helps. Glenn, did you have any feedback you wanted to share about that? I believe you are muted, sir.
That's exactly how I would do it as well. Marissa would like to know, so if we're using Mailgun, do we still have to set the SMTP settings up through Cloudflare?
You should. Okay, so Mailgun, if I'm not mistaken, is a SMTP provider. So you would not necessarily have to set up anything inside of Cloudflare unless you're using a custom domain for your sending. To make it work with ClickFunnels, you don't have to do anything with Cloudflare. You would do that. You would simply set it up here underneath your SMTP settings. You put, of course, your details in here. Make sure you selected the right port, username, the domain that you're sending from, all that wonderful stuff. So that is not necessarily needed in Cloudflare.
If you're utilizing an email web host, not an SMTP, you can set that up through Cloudflare as well. Eric Soul would like to know, how can we set up an SMTP with G Suite?
Okay, that's essentially the same thing. So G Suite is not something that I'm actually familiar with actually setting up. I've never done it. But what I do believe that you need to do is you need to go in through Cloudflare, setting up your DKIM records and your text records to point to your system so that you're sending from your domain name. And then, of course, set your port very similarly here inside of your SMTP configuration. Now, Glenn, I think you have a little more knowledge on G Suite than I do.
Check in their terms of service to see if it's actually against their terms of service to use G Suite as an SMTP provider for marketing. I believe in the past there's been issues with that. You can set up G Suite for email hosting, where you can receive inbound emails from certain domains, and we do have a tutorial document on that, but not setting up SMTP services. Sarah has a question about ClickFunnels and ConvertKit. My funnel has 2 products, a paid opt-in to offer a warm audience and OTO, of which I have set up in ConvertKit. Since buyers need to buy the opt-in before seeing the OTO, they'll be added to the list for the product. But if they buy the OTO, I'd like to send them to a completely different sequence that starts with a welcome email, which includes a video. Is there a way for my OTO buyers to bypass the first opt-in product email, or can I only move them to another list afterwards?
Okay, so from within ConvertKit, you should be able to remove them from one list or remove them from one sequence based off of what sequences are added to. Now, inside of ClickFunnels, you would be able to add them to the list that they would then, again, get that sequence from. So your question has 2 parts. First of all, you would want to set it up in ClickFunnels to add them to the OTO list. And then in ConvertKit, you'd want to set up a rule. Now, I'm not familiar with ConvertKit. I don't know how it works inside their system, but you'd want to set up a rule or whatever they call it to be able to remove that person from the other list as well when they're added to ConvertKit. So that's how I would added to your OTO list. That's how I'd personally do it. Glenn, maybe you've got some feedback or alternative solution.
would also look into reaching out to ConvertKit's support to see if there's a more effective way that was just suggested. That's the method that I would utilize, but as I'm not as intimately knowledgeable about ConvertKit's intricacies as I am with ClickFunnels, I would always refer you to the subject matter expert for an answer from the horse's mouth itself. Ben would like to know, okay, last question for the day. No problem, Ben. I'm launching a product and I'll be sending an email list or an email to two lists and have some overlap of people in the two lists. Is there any way that I can ensure that I don't send the emails to the same person in both lists?
You could create a third list and use a smart list to be able to populate it with people who meet a specific set of criteria that actually is the conditions from those lists. Other than that, I don't think there's a way to exclude individuals as of now on specific lists, with the exception of just creating that third list to send to. So, Glenn, do you have any feedback or anything you'd like to share about that?
Not yet. That would be an excellent third feature request. John has a question. So regards to when they log in, say 3 weeks after it started, would they start on lesson 1, even if some members are on lesson 11? And I believe this is in regards to a drip sequence in a membership section.
Okay, so now this is going to depend. Say, for example, in our example here, they've gone through the funnel, they've made the purchase, but they have not actually logged into the members area yet for, say, for example, 20 days. The second person comes through and they log in today. The person who logged in today is going to see the drip based off of when they logged into the members area, not necessarily when they purchased the access, if that's the case. The person who has not created it when they log in will be actually the amount of days behind that individual who created it that same day. So the drip will continue to unlock the sections of the membership area once it's been created. So if they don't log in, say for 3 days, they're going to see 3 lessons. That is on the condition that they logged in the first place. So hopefully that answers your question. It makes sense.
Perfect. Woodley Rogers would like to know, where can I find ClickFunnels for Dummies?
ClickFunnels for Dummies. I think that this is it. Right here. You can ask us pretty much any question that you'd like. We can answer those questions for you, as well as our knowledge base. And we are working on making that as simplified as possible in every aspect, so that it's very simple to go in and be able to find what you need to do. Now, if you're looking for steps on getting started, say, for example, you just got started with ClickFunnels, you don't know where to begin, you don't have a product to sell, or whatever the case might be in that area, you can start off with the game. Okay, so the game's going to walk you through right here. You just go ahead, mine says resume playing, but yours will say start, or whatever it might be if you've already started or whatnot. Then just start at the beginning of the game and walk your way through it. This will get you kind of a view of what ClickFunnels has for you. And if you follow the steps, you'll actually have set up a basic funnel for whatever it is that you're bringing to the market. If you don't have a product, of course, you can always use our affiliate program and market ClickFunnels products, the books and things of that nature, to be able to build your lists and start off that way. So there's a lot of other options as well. And then additionally, you could reach out to the Facebook community. There's a lot of people there who have some pretty cool resources available to you. And maybe some of those could be of service to you. So, Glenn, did you have any other feedback on that particular process?
I always love to tout the Facebook community group just for the fact that it is a free wealth of knowledge that is really a wonderful community. Other than that, hold on one second, refreshing my page to see if we have any further questions coming in. Making sure I'm getting everything from Facebook. Marissa would like to know, if I'm setting up my email through a custom domain I've added to ClickFunnels, then do I need to use Cloudflare?
You do not need to use Cloudflare. If you got the domain from ClickFunnels, it should just automatically be there. If you got the domain from a third party, so for example, Namecheap or GoDaddy or wherever it might be, you don't necessarily need Cloudflare for that. You still could use Cloudflare, but you would only necessarily need to point your DNS records to target.clickfunnels.com, point them over here, your CNAME records and things to map your domain. But if you did purchase it from ClickFunnels, Cloudflare is not needed.
Awesome. And you can verify that within your account. Going into your custom domain section, you'll see that if it was an externally registered domain, then you'll set up all of your DNS settings within the domain registrar itself. So let's see an external domain. And then when you open up one of those, it'll show that all DNS management is at the domain registrar itself. Perfect. Sarah has a follow-up on ConvertKit. ConvertKit support wants me to set up a rule to remove the OTO buyers from the first list. That will work after they receive their first email, but I wondered if there was a way to prevent them from getting on list one in the first place.
What I would do is I would actually put a delay on that first email. So say, for example, if they're going through your funnel and your OTO, you say, for example, if you have a video on it that's 30 minutes, I would delay the initial email from ConvertKit by an hour. That way, if they do purchase that OTO, they're removed from the previous list prior to that email going out, if that's what you're trying to prevent. Other than that, I don't know if there's a way to do it, because that would all be done on ConvertKit's side.
Eric Soul would like to know, if we have multiple clients, do we need to set up SMTP integrations for every single client, or do you need ClickFunnels for every single client?
Okay, so for your SMTP servers, every single client would have to have their own ClickFunnels account, and then inside their account, you would set up their own SMTP server. So if they're using SendGrid, for example, you would set up the SendGrid inside of their own ClickFunnels account. You wouldn't be able to set them up inside of your ClickFunnels account and then run traffic and run their account through your ClickFunnels account. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, you're limited to 3 SMTP servers, so you wouldn't really be able to get very far. But two, every individual person who has ClickFunnels needs to have their own account, that they have their own login that they don't share or anybody else logs in with. So each of your clients will have to have their own ClickFunnels account and then their own SMTP server hooked to that. Now, of course, the SMTP server, maybe they have different plans, an agency level plan where you can have your SMTP account hooked into theirs for sending. That's something that you want to look into with each individual SMTP provider. I don't know what they offer with respect to that, but I know with us, each individual person has to have a ClickFunnels account.
As Drew was stating, it's against our terms of service to run clients' funnels through your own account. However, you're more than welcome to build them through your own account and then share them to funnels, share the funnels to the clients for them to open up their own ClickFunnels account. Jesse would like to know, can you create more than one ClickFunnels subdomain?
Okay, so each account has one subdomain that goes with the account. You can change the subdomain, but you can only change, it's going to change all of the subdomains in your account. You're not going to have more than one for ClickFunnels. Now, if you have your own custom domain, you can have as many subdomains on top of that one as you'd like. So I would highly recommend getting a custom domain, your own personal domain, either from ClickFunnels or from a third-party registrar, but that'd be the best route to go.
And since you get one free through ClickFunnels, you're able to set up multiple subdomains from that as well. So far, I don't see any further questions coming in. I see Ben saying Actionetics rocks. He looks forward to seeing the Actionetics DM announced at Funnel Hacking Live. Unfortunately, he won't be there, but maybe next year. Other than that, I don't see any other questions, concerns, or statements.
We'll give everybody a couple of minutes here or seconds here to get the questions in if you have any. If you don't, out of respect for everybody's time, as usual, we could go ahead and call the webinar a few minutes early. We usually go for about 45 minutes. We have currently been going for about 30 minutes. So we're relatively close. So if anybody does have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, feedback, anything I'd like to share, please feel free to do so now. We're standing by.
No problem, John. We're happy to help. So it looks like Ramon has submitted a question from the Facebook community group. Not sure if this is the right form for this, but can I use ClickFunnels for my business? I own a real estate brokerage business and would like to get rid of my current provider that hosts my web pages. If I decided to use ClickFunnels as my website front, is there a way to link the IDX option to it so people can search for houses off my ClickFunnels website?
Okay, so I have no idea what that option is that you just referenced, but ClickFunnels can serve as a website. Now, as far as being able to search for a database, That's not something that I'm aware of being able to do natively. Being able to collect contacts and things like that, be able to send them campaigns is very, very a structured system is what ClickFunnels would lend itself to. But if you're looking for kind of like a MLS service or something like that, I don't know if ClickFunnels would be suited for that. Glenn, did you have any feedback on that particular topic, custom scripts or anything that you're aware of?
I just did a quick Google search of it. And it looks like there are a few ways to embed it into WordPress. So if you're able to embed it into WordPress via an HTML form, then there would be no issue with you embedding something of a similar nature into ClickFunnels as long as it was secured form. So it would have to be an HTTPS form, not HTTP. But other than that, I don't see why it wouldn't work in theory. Perhaps reaching out to the community group itself and asking if anyone's done that in the past and see if it would be a viable option for you.
Worst case scenario, you can always set up the free trial. Like Glenn was saying, that there's an embed option for WordPress. That's probably a good indicator that you could embed it just about anywhere. Try it. Right? If it works, awesome. Because obviously you have a plethora of other tools and resources that are going to benefit you as well. So that's about the best we can do as far as direction goes on that particular question.
Fantastic. We have several other questions coming in. Ben says, really? This is the last question. The unsubscribe link in the digital asset delivery, rather long and sticks out like a sore thumb. Is there any way to make it an anchor URL instead of a long URL to stand out for people to click? Or would that be a great sixth feature request?
I believe you can hyperlink it, but I don't know. I've never actually played with the digital assets unsubscribe link.
You should be able to hyperlink it.
Yeah, I mean, just go in and hyperlink it inside of your SMTP footer, right? So if we go into our SMTP account, so for example, here, here we can go down here into our unsubscribe. And if we hyperlink the unsubscribe text, you'll be able to see where it says click here to unsubscribe, and they click that instead of seeing that enormously long link. They'll see click here to unsubscribe, and that should, if I'm not mistaken, show up in your digital asset delivery when it's being delivered. So that's how you can do that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
As long as you use the merge tag, it should show up exactly as described. Beverly would like to know, I get confused on what actually triggers the email. Example, when the page opens, when they click on something. Could you review that again, please?
Absolutely. So this is going to be dependent on a couple of things. So number one, the first thing that's going to trigger the email is submitting it. So for example, here on the opt-in page, if I've never been to this before, I'm not contacting this side of the system, and I'm not cookied, what's going to happen here when we go to this page live? We click the button, and what's going to trigger this is me clicking on this. So the system is going to take this email address here, and we'll just go ahead and throw some little stuff on there. Now this has triggered this specific email. Now the reason why it refreshed is because I don't have a secondary page behind it, so it just refreshed the page. But if we go into our contacts, this actually is now a contact inside of my contact records, and will have been added to any list that is here. So any action funnel, for example, that is associated with the list that this person would be added to. In this case, it's not set to add to a list, but if it did, that would trigger the action funnel associated with that list. Now, if I'm not using Actionetics, if I have an automation set up here on the automation tab, which in this case I obviously don't, but if I'm sending an email here, this particular email will go out. Now let's add a thank you page here into our mix, and we'll add on an email for this. So say, for example, the person goes from this page to our thank you page after they opt in, and when they land on the thank you page, I want to trigger an automation. If I set this up to have an email here, once they've gone from this and landed on this second page, then the email will trigger unless I put a button on the page that is a submit button, just like the first page. So when we click the button on the first page, that was a submit button. If I do not have that present, but I do have an email that is set to go out from the automation tab, it will automatically trigger upon the person landing on the page. So it depends on how it is set up. Now, in the condition that I put a button or a input field on this particular page, then the person will actually have to click the button before that automation triggers. So hopefully that answered you. without confusing.
The too long didn't read is there are many options, and you can find most of those, if not all, in our document section at ClickFunnels or docs.clickfunnels.com. Jody would like to know, how is the best method to determine the size of an area so you can fit the right size JPEG picture in?
Okay, so that's going to be dependent on the screen it's being viewed on, not necessarily the area on the page. Now, in this case, I have a screen resizer here. So this particular screen view that we're seeing is 1280 pixels by 720. Right? So if I wanted an image to fill the entire screen, that would be my dimensions. But if I scale that out to 1900 or whatever my pixels are, that image may look a little bit distorted or whatever the case might be. What I've found with images is you can scale them down pretty easily. Scaling them up is where you run into problems. So large images generally are, in my opinion, the best way to go, and then just size them based off of how you want them to look on the page by going into the image. So for example, if I'm putting an image on the page here, I can change the width and size of that image in the image settings. So if my image, for example, is 980 pixels wide, but I want to put it in a box at 640 pixels, but when I add the image element to the page, I can make that, oops, that's a paragraph, not an image. We'll go in here and get an image there. I did not add it. Image, there we go. On the page. Okay, so I can come in here and I can actually change the width of this image to 640, for example, or if I want it to be 1280, which is huge, I can do that as well. So it's going to be dependent on the size of the element that it's sitting in, the section that it's sitting in, as well as the size of the screen that you're viewing it on. So there's a lot of factors involved with image sizes, and you're just going to want to tinker with those and see which one suits you best for your purposes. Glenn, did you have any feedback you wanted to share about that?
That works. You can also right-click and inspect and see what the size of the element itself is and adjust accordingly. You can also use custom CSS if you want to adjust to a certain size as well, but these are a little bit more advanced techniques. I highly suggest starting out with what Drew has stated. James would like to know, do you use Pro Tools in your funnels?
I have a few scripts that I play with in some of the funnels that I have built. But for the most part, I spend a lot more of my time showing people how the stuff works versus using it myself at this point. But if I were to be very heavy and go from 2 weeks to 2 commas in my marketing, I would definitely implore a lot of the scripts from Funnel University. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Glenn, did you want to throw any opinions?
And it also depends on what the functionality of your funnel is intended to be. So I tend to try to keep it as simple as possible, but if I'm doing a shopping cart, I would use CF Pro Tools, the cart mode and things of that nature, but it really just depends on what the flow of my funnel wants to be and the best way to achieve it in the most simplistic fashion possible. The less moving cogs, the less I have to possibly adjust or readdress. Ben would like to know, does ClickFunnels automatically compress images so that they are optimized and load fast on the page?
I believe it does. I've had some pretty gigantic images on my pages that are incredibly detailed, and they've loaded pretty fast. I guess there's a lot of factors that would involve with that, but I do believe that ClickFunnels has a really nice caching system. So
it'll optimize your viewpoints and whatnot. However, image size itself with large file sizes could affect your load speed. You can always look at the Google tracking software and whatnot to see what the speed of your page is as well. They have awesome resources telling you if your file sizes are too large and whatnot, or you can go in and adjust specifically. Checking to see if we have any more questions coming through. Looks like no from the Q&A. We don't have any further from the chat, and Facebook looks up to date.
Outstanding. We do have a few minutes left, about 6 minutes. If anybody does have anything they'd like to throw in, and we can kind of address and go over to the best of our ability and resources here on the webinar. But if not, we'll go ahead and let everybody continue on about their taking over the world with ClickFunnels and achieving their dreams. So Glenn, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Just appreciate all of you guys joining us, guys and gals joining us today, and we look forward to helping you further tomorrow. We have one final question from Jesse. What is a digital table rush?
Okay. So digital table rush is essentially, it's
Were you?
basically, can you hear? Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay. So here on the order page, you can
Yes.
actually activate digital table rush underneath the publishing tab. You'll see right here, if we enable that, what it will do is it will actually pop up uh, a little message down here saying a person just purchased this from wherever, and it'll show that over and over and over again. You'll see it on websites around when you're visiting the order page. It's kind of a psychological trigger because people don't want to miss out on what everybody else is taking advantage of, but you also don't want to be that first person to test the water. You know what I mean? So it gives that person the idea that they're not alone in making that buying decision. So that's kind of what digital table rush is and the idea behind it. Glenn, did you have anything you wanted to share about that particular feature?
No, sir. Digital labor rush is just available on our order forms and OTO pages, and it's just a method of social proofing. Other
All
than
right.
that, I see Marissa has a question about how to add a video directly to connect Mailgun's SMTP. Yes, we do have documents showing you how to connect Mailgun's SMTP, and I'll go ahead and send that to you in the Facebook chat. Other than that, I do not see any further questions coming in today, Drew.
All right, we do have about 3 minutes left on our clock here for today. But if we do not have any further questions, out of respect for everybody's time, we do appreciate you coming out and listening to us and sharing your questions with everybody. We always do benefit everybody, even those of you who are attending and not asking questions are getting feedback from those of you who are asking questions, and we appreciate that. So again, we will be here at the same time again tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for about 45 minutes, answering everybody's questions. So without any further ado, if we do not have any questions, Glenn, you have anything?
It looks like we have one last question from Jody.
Perfect.
Is in regards to how to edit seeing dynamically updated. So can you show us how to edit dynamically updated?
Okay, so dynamically updated, if what you're referencing here is this particular, so for example, you can see it right here where it says dynamically updated. This is going to be reflected based off of your product. So for example, this particular page does not have any products. So if we go out to our order page, what will happen here is you'll see, as soon as it loads, there we go. It says dynamically updated because there's nothing to update. If we go inside of our product settings and we add a product, so really fast, I'll just select a random group of settings. We'll throw this on for $1 and we'll create that product. You'll see here that that dynamically updated is now going to show demo 1 for $1 when we visit that page online. And it's, there we go. Oops. Of course, you're probably not going to be able to see this because it's in a different window, but it does say demo 1 and $1 for where it says dynamically updated. But that's how that works. It's also going to have the dynamically updated on your order confirmation pages, which will do the same thing. It will update that text with whatever it is that they purchased through the funnel. Now, if I were to add additional products onto this, it will list those products based off that setting. So that's what it is. That's how it works, and that's how you would adjust it. Unfortunately, you're not able to see that because I'm logged into my ClickFunnels account while demonstrating it. But if you do go to a private browser, you can see that it does show that on the page. So if that's what you're experiencing when you have products set up on your page and you go to look at the page, you are seeing it say dynamically updated. What you want to do, if you're in Chrome or pretty much any browser, is you just right click on it and you can open that in an incognito. I believe in Firefox it's called a private browser. And that's going to basically show you what your page will look like when a brand new person views it who doesn't have any cookies or isn't logged into your ClickFunnels account for editing purposes. So hopefully that helps. Ben, did you have anything you wanted to share about dynamically updated text?
Wonderful. You hit it straight ahead. And Jody says thank you as well.
Outstanding. Well, we are currently out of time. So Ben, do you have any closing thoughts you wanted to share?
Once again, I appreciate all of your time, ladies and gentlemen. Come back tomorrow with as many wonderful questions as you did today.